we're at that time. It's that time for the last panel of the day, which is also the topic du jour, and that's why we hold this in LA. It's the creator economy and the future of video monetization. These are people who you probably know well or know of quite well, and Charlie Ibarra with Creator Television, Parker Jones over there with Towerhouse, Jonathan Shrank from TheSoul Publishing, David Williams with pocket.watch. I'm Chris Pfaff with Chris Pfaff Tech Media LLC, and we're going to dive right in here because there's so much going on, and so much so that, you know, I still have a lot of print subscriptions coming into the house, but this came in the mail. It's Mr. Beast, Jimmy, on the cover of Bloomberg Business Week. So that's how hot this guy is, that he's on the cover. Mr. Beast enters mogul mode. Well, to these gentlemen who have minted some of these moguls and continue to work in that space, this is not news at all. You know, it's an interesting situation that we're in because, of course, you know, we need talent in all of this, along with a lot of great technology and even some ad tech. So I really want to dive in by asking, so how do you mint new creators, and are your companies essentially the new studios? We're reading a lot about the demise of Hollywood as we knew it and know it. Charlie, I mean, talk about what you're doing, and I want everyone else to sort of dive in here. How do you get into producing, you know, something that sticks and finding that talent? Because I think that's you know, to me, the most essential thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Hi, I'm Charlie Ibarra. I'm the co-founder and head of content for Creator Television. We are the first streaming network and content studio dedicated to bringing the authenticity and energy of social media storytelling to the TV space. We produce 30-minute episodic series with popular content creators, and we distribute them on our owned and operated FAST channels and across AVOD. So when we're looking at you know, content creators, and we come from so many different shapes and sizes, categories, we've found a lot of success in specific categories or genres, that being comedy, reaction, lifestyle. Starting to expand into sports, and by no means are they the only categories that work. It's the ones where we found a rich talent pool and a really amazing creative and storytelling. We're looking at folks that have personalities, that can stand up in a big TV sort of lean back experience. We're having a lot of success with longer form, so like YouTubers. We work with the likes of Uncle Roger, Trey Kennedy, Daphne Springs. All three of those have comedy specials on Hulu now. We've made sketch comedy shows with Daphne Springs and Trey Kennedy. But we're looking for a combination of profile, entertainment, factor, of course, and then production style. Like, what's their stamina like? Can they produce and hang in there for longer storytelling?
Yeah, and speaking of the Hulu, sort of the creator to Hulu, David, you've got at least a few people who've jumped to Hulu. Talk about that, and also most of us know, I mean, your work, and by the way, for those who don't know, David was at Maker Studios, which then of course was acquired by Disney, and has built pocket.watch into a very kid-friendly, and one kid, his name is Ryan, yes, Ryan's Toys, but you've expanded massively, and I find it interesting that you too have made that Hulu jump with your creators.
Yeah, look, we consider ourselves the first and largest kids and family creator media company, and we've been doing this since about 2017. I think our first deal with Hulu was actually 2018, and the main premise is that the creators on YouTube and in this community are what's really resonating with audiences, especially with young audiences, more than anything that ever came before. I think I've said a few times that it's kind of like rock and roll and hip hop and comic books. That the industry kind of has been looking at it with a side eye for many years, and then all of a sudden it's dominating culture. And so we've developed a really terrific business where we can go into YouTube. We're not minting new stars, but we're identifying the stars that are resonating with these audiences. And we actually have developed some internal tools, like we have a tool we call Channelizer AI that allows us to evaluate libraries. Evaluate it not just for the value, although that's a big part of it, and doing things like normalizing against the popularity of a video so that, you know, we're sort of not just looking at the old videos with the most views and finding what's acceptable and unacceptable from a standards and practices standpoint. And before we partner, we always make sure that the creators themselves are going to treat their kids right to the extent that there's a family involved, as well as protect the brand safety of everybody involved, of us and our partners. But we've been bringing content from YouTube through a process we call curate, cure, enrich, and package, where we essentially adapt it for premium television. And in 2025, we will have about 530 plus episodes of content on Hulu. We also distribute to Peacock and Amazon and Sky in the UK and Tubi and sort of the whole gamut, and with owned and operated channels on the FAST platforms and apps and all the rest of it. But we find that this is the content that resonates with audiences, and when you've proven your success and your appeal on YouTube, that appeal translates, and we can build a business on that.
And Parker, your business, of course, Towerhouse was acquired by V10 Entertainment. Some of you may have seen me doing the debate yesterday, which was won by Jonathan Shrank and his partner John Stevens of V10 Entertainment. Yes, he's such a great debater. But V10 is acquired, but you're bringing AI to the fore in this creator economy. Talk about how you're using AI and what you see in terms of monetization with AI.
Yeah, sure, thanks. Thank you guys for having me. My name's Parker, as you mentioned. My background is just I've always been in the creator economy, building services and technology. Ran a couple of large MCNs, and then started Towerhouse, just sold it to Venture 10. So we run America's Funniest Videos. It's one of our biggest properties, doing over 1.5 billion views a month across our socials. And it surprised me coming into the business. We've got a library of 2.8 million clips that's been just aggregated over the years since the 80s, one of the longest TV shows still running, and about 200,000 clips are submitted every year. So where I'm going with this is, you can imagine the operation involved in reviewing videos that come into our library, and then the amount of folks involved in programming off that library to build content and compilations on the TV show, across FAST, across all digital. And along comes AI and new tools that allow us to rapidly scan through our library. So 12 Labs is the one we just integrated. And this has made it possible to just search for anything. And what we found is, we've focused our library completely for the FE TV show, very much like pranks and fails, that kind of content. But we actually have so much more, along the lines of like automotive and family content, kids content. We have dash cam videos, doorbell cameras, and we're able to program many new channels just based on this discovery, like having this new technology integrated. So that's been a big accelerator for us. And I want to use this moment to just talk generally about AI and the creator economy, because I think it's seen as a potential threat to the creator economy, but I see many risks, but I would like to talk about the opportunities. And I think, for us, like productivity, of course, for any existing creator, there's so many tools that allow you to increase throughput. If you want to edit and post something you did, you don't have to go reshoot. You could do text edit in Adobe Premiere. You could use Descript to take out every in your speech. Be nice now, my panel. You can use 11 Labs, train your voice, and then create audio based on your character, and then actually use that in future content. And so productivity for existing creators is really impressive. And also it's minting new creators, like people that would not want to be on screen now can just use their imagination and create content with VO3, with Sora 2. You know, I mean, that's an incredible opportunity to turn many more people into creators. So I think that's a huge opportunity. And then on the monetization front, just to continue down the line of opportunities here, you know, the first wave was really about licensing your content to LLMs to train, and that's still going on. Companies like Protégé are helping aggregate content to sell to these tech companies. But there's many new models now popping up. This is the big trend right now, is like how do you monetize these tools. So some that I'm excited about, like creators able to train, you know, agents and bots and then monetize those on Quora or on character.ai. For us, we're experimenting with virtual product placement. So companies like Rembrandt, who allow you to, they basically scan all of your videos, find places you could insert products, and then now all those videos become potential brand placements. So that's a huge way to monetize your catalog. And the platforms themselves are also increasing the surface area for shoppable video by auto-tagging videos with products that they know exist in there, so they can now monetize those videos. Hopefully that comes back to the creators. So I think there's just a lot of opportunity from AI that's affecting us as well. Real quick on the risk side, just while I'm here, because you can't really ignore it. First, piracy is something we're very concerned about.
And you were saying there is no way that we would be able to protect our content or watermark it the way we thought we could, right?
Yeah, so Towerhouse, one of our main services is rights management on YouTube in the sports space. So we're very concerned about the ability to modify videos. Every frame could be modified slightly and then almost impossible to detect. And people are trying to do this detection, but it is transformative, and so there's a fair use case there that we're very concerned about. And then, I think that's probably the biggest risk I'll end with there. But yeah, so that's how the opportunities of monetization and productivity, I think, are very real.
Yeah, and Jonathan, you're in this interesting situation because you're digital first. And that's given you probably some interesting advantages in this space. Talk about your approach to enabling, and also, I mean, you have different properties, including _talent, that give you an additional advantage here. But what's sort of your view, being digital first, that you think gives you a leg up?
Yeah, so as you correctly alluded to at the beginning, Chris, creators is all the buzzword now, but for those of us who've been doing it for a few years, it seems that people are finally coming to the party, I guess in the same way that AVOD a couple of years ago was a bit of a dirty word. So it's nice to see that the recognition's happened. Just by way of introduction, TheSoul has been going for about 10 years. We're content creators, producers, distributors. Digital first, so we have about 2.5 billion subscribers worldwide. We get about 30 billion monthly views on our content as well. Mixture of kids, family, general entertainment. But we kind of really see ourselves as an end-to-end media company as well. So that means music, licensing, production, merchandising. And as you mentioned, we're the parent company of _talent, who represent a really impressive roster of creators. One of the most well-known, and my favourites, is someone called Alan Cheekin Chow, who has Alan's World, about 100 million subscribers on YouTube. And over the last few years, we've kind of really looked at the way that we can bring our creators and our content to a global audience. Because on social media, it's ubiquitous already, right? So the question to platforms is, well, your audience is already watching our content, right? Just not on your platforms. Right. So we've done, as I say, started about 2.5, 3 years ago, bringing our content to streaming platforms, for example, via fast channels, and VOD. We're on about 60 different streaming platforms in about 180 different countries. But it's the same content, but actually we were very conscious of the fact that we needed to make it look different from social media. So that means creating different times, so 22 or 11-minute episodes, opening and closing title sequences, different metadata, different descriptions.
And was this based on feedback and research, or experimentation, or both?
In terms of that specifically, it was from my experience in working in fast and streaming before. I'm ex-BBC, so you probably can't become more traditional than that in terms of broadcast.
But also, like the best training.
Yes,
So-
indeed. It's an organisation like no other, for good or for bad, but it's incredible what it achieves on a very small budget. But there, it's because it's a public service broadcaster, things take a lot longer to get done, whereas in the sort of more commercial world, things move a lot faster. But yes, so in answer to your question, we realised we had to kind of make it look, because you can't have calls to action on your content, right? You can't have that kind of some of the more gotcha headlines that you might see on YouTube. So it's really a case, and the platforms has also demanded that as well, right? So some, and I guess other panelists might appreciate this too, some platforms were quicker to understand this than others. They understood where the opportunity was to work for creators and digital first content. Some platforms still, I would argue, see to some extent YouTube as a marketing tool or user-generated content, but the stats bear it out. I think we've talked on other panels about the rise of YouTube. So I think 13% on connected TVs in the US. I think the nearest is Netflix on about 8.8, and not, I guess the fallacy of user-generated content. Looking at a report by Digital Eye, the first 6 months of the year, SNL is actually the most popular show on YouTube in the US in the first half of this year. There's also news channels in there, so CNN, ABC, NBC News, ESPN is in there as well. So there's a bit of an argument along a lot of people: is YouTube TV or isn't? And we can have that discussion another day. But it's sort of coming back to what we do. We understand that our content and our audiences, our content ubiquitous. It's not exclusive. We want our audience to be able to experience it whatever platform they're on. We don't have to scroll around looking for it, and we don't feel that being on streaming platforms or fast or cable or broadcast or even on aeroplanes is we're not competing with our audience. We're just giving our audience the ability to watch content when they want on their own terms.
But that also gets into new formats, and I think that's something, going back to your television background. But you mentioned fast. I mean, I thought it was interesting to see that Samsung TV Plus announced a deal with Darman, as well as others. And Darman, is a big name, not necessarily the biggest, but I mean, that shows that yes, CTV is definitely pushing more into the creator space. But what do we all think about fast channels with creators? David, you've got some experience there.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've got a couple fast channels across all the major platforms. I think what's important from my perspective on fast channels is that they're a piece of the puzzle. They're not the whole puzzle. They fit into an ecosystem. And I think one of the virtues of having content being distributed through all these different platforms and all these different business models is that you have an opportunity to kind of see the pros and cons of each, the strengths and weaknesses, how they might fit together in the most synergistic ways. And so, for example, when we look at fast, now we're on the kids side for the most part, which means that we don't monetize at the same level that others do, but nonetheless, the fast landscape has immense challenges with respect to monetization, largely due to them having so much inventory that's also fragmented across so many different platforms. You have sales teams that are kind of selling the same inventory on these different platforms. The ad market in general is not in the strongest place it's ever been, frankly, at this moment in time, with sort of some of the economic uncertainty that's out there. So bottom line is we look at fast as one of the lower revenue yield, but potentially higher reach aspects to an overall distribution strategy that also includes, pure SVOD channels, for example, which we run one that's been very successful. And to the extent we can convert audiences from a fast channel that's monetizing at maybe, let's just call it $10 per 1,000 hours of viewing, into an SVOD that's going to monetize at $300, that's what we want to think about as we're programming our fast channel.
Right, and I mean, Charlie, you're in a situation where you've got very specific advantages, in terms of reaching different audiences, and I think that's very attractive to advertisers, right?
The fast space is interesting for us because we see it as sort of the new syndication channel for YouTube, yeah, or social storytelling. What we're finding through our distribution partnerships is they're excited about the ability to bring a different type of storytelling to the experience, where fast channels across all different platforms kind of look the same channels, same IP, with the same kind of formats. We're now offering, and they're excited to bring on this new type of storytelling that, by the way, is now favored by younger audiences. Yeah, we saw in the Deloitte Digital Media Study earlier this year, where Gen Zs and millennials are now resonating or connecting stronger with digital creators than they are with traditional celebs. And then to take it one step further, those same audiences would be willing to watch or want to watch a TV show that's led by one of their favorite content creators. And that's exactly what we're doing. When that thing came out, we were like doing a touchdown dance in the office. We're like, holy fucking shit.
And it's Deloitte. It's not some fly-by-night
It's like
organization.
the partnership discussions just got way more intense after this thing, because you were like, yeah, that's...
Ching.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks,
Ching.
Deloitte. Checks in the mail, Deloitte. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Fruit Basket. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Can I
Parker.
ask a
Yeah.
follow-up question to these ideas of creator licensing to Fast? I'm curious how you guys think about this being different than Go 90 deals of 2015 to 2018.
Oh my God. I love Go 90. You know
Love Go
why?
90.
Because I could watch Barca, for free through Verizon, and then I had to pay for Fubo for 5 years or something. and so because I'm a Barca supporter, that was great. So that's why I like Go 90. That's the only reason. Yes.
I mean, shut down in 2018, though,
Yeah,
just to
I
be
know.
clear. So I don't know what you're still watching, but
No. I'm just saying I was watching.
Yeah.
And then had to sign up for Fubo for 4 years.
I mean, the thesis is the same today, right? It's like these are audience. Sorry, these are creators who are experts at gaining audience, having young millennial, and younger audiences that they might be able to bring to the platform. And that was the thesis with Go 90, right? But it ultimately failed. I mean, after $1 billion spend.
Well, hey, at least they ran for a few. Quibi ran for 5 months, And for those who are keeping score in Hollywood, Mr. Katzenberg is Teflon, okay? $1 billion and that thing tanked. But they had some very good technology and they parsed it out to companies, including Roku took some. But he also had something called, anyone remember pop.com? Okay, I do. $60 million and it never launched. It was Ron Howard and Katzenberg. And again, nothing. So if you want to fail big and still make it in Hollywood, talk to Jeffrey Katzenberg. that was an aside. Go ahead, Parker. What were you saying?
Well, I'm just opening up to the group because I'm curious, how you see this as different. Because I think it is different, but I want to hear what you guys think.
So in some ways it's not different. Let's be clear that we have not seen the last service to vanish from the planet yet. And I think that there is a lot of clutter and duplication in the space and potential waves of consolidation coming. So I'm not sure how different it's totally going to play out here. And I think from my perspective, in terms of Samsung dropping dollars for those fast deals, I guess I wonder to what extent was Go 90 trying to spark a service that didn't really have an intrinsic strategic value versus Samsung that's got ubiquitous, in some respects, the most powerful distribution built in terms of owning the glass and probably having the biggest, TV device footprint in
by
the
the way,
world.
mobile devices.
Yeah. Right, and mobile too.
Yeah.
So they own a lot of real estate here that kind of allows them to leverage a Darman type deal in a way that extends their market share as opposed to kind of trying to build it from scratch.
Yeah, and I'd agree, Chris, just what you and Charlie were saying, right? So I think, fast is another part of the ecosystem. It's not going to be all and end all. The content ecosystem, rather, it's another distribution point. But I wonder as well, Charlie, what you were saying about, what differentiates, right? Where's the USP? Think about, and it's cyclical, right? The same patterns repeat themselves. The whole reason that people were cutting the cord is because they didn't want to pay for bundles anymore, right? They might just want to watch, X number of channels. They didn't want to pay for ESPN, which is at the time often the highest in the bundle, right? And the same thing's happening again, right? You're getting all these platforms, all this content, because 4 or 5 years ago, Samsung as the world were taking anything, right? They just needed content and they needed to build an ecosystem there. Now they're obviously being much more choosy, and you've got the Paramount and the Warner Brothers and the BBC and all the main. So what's going to be different here? What's going to be something that kind of differentiates all these fast platforms? Is it going to be that it's free? Is that going to be enough for people to kind of stay there, or is it going to be the quality of the content? And coming back to the fragmentation as well, I can say one of my biggest frustrations in terms of fast is the inconsistency of reporting and data and analytics that we get.
You don't mind having to pay for it every time?
so some platforms literally give you one line, views, money. Some have great databases, by the way. Some have really you can drill down, and actually it benefits the audience and it benefits the owner of the IP, right? Because it allows you to tailor and focus on the shows that are working and what your audience want, which at the end of the day is what you want to be doing, right? As opposed to just throwing a load of stuff on the wall and hoping it sticks. And then the other area is on the advertising dollars, which David was talking about as well. And I think there's some interesting reports. I mentioned this in the debate yesterday. That there's analysis that by 2030 over 40% of the global advertising spend will be on connected TVs. TV Rev had a report out a couple of years ago that by the end of this year about 35% of ad spending is going to be on fast. I still think it's being figured out. I don't think we're close to that yet.
No, I don't think so, but I think part of that is just in the stack itself. I think that we're going to have this come to Jesus moment. I mean, the fact that Jimmy, Mr. Beast, is on the cover of fucking, excuse my French, Bloomberg Businessweek, says that somebody's going to pay attention to this and we're going to straighten it out. And Daddy's watching. And I think that this is, we're getting close to that now, because it's like, all the fact that Nielsen was able to get away for years with they'd acquire some companies or whatnot, but it's like, okay, we should be better at reporting all this. And I think that part of this is getting back to what makes television, which is the hits. I mean, all you guys and many people in the room, you've created hits here. And I think that Mr. Beast is just one of many and many and many and many, and even through slices of different demographics. But I think that, that leads to my next little discussion point here, which is, whether the MCN, I mean, those of us in New York who go to IAB New Fronts, well, you don't have to be in New York to go to it, but it helps. But I mean, that's still a thing, but MCNs. But that's I feel like they're hits that have come out of the Studio 71s and others, Rhett and company, and all these folks who do well with brands, and they know how to sell. They know how to tell a story and know how to sell. And I think that's what makes the difference. But what do you see on that side? I'm just curious what people think of where the MCN model is.
Well, I think the essence of the MCN model was essentially that the MCN would take a percentage of the AdSense revenue that Google generated and tell the creator, trust us, we're going to return the value. And I think that model has, creators got a little bit skeptical about that model. So as kind of a tentpole of a business, I don't think that's prevalent anymore.
I will agree with that, but I'm curious what Charlie thinks. But I'll just say this: I saw years ago that it was too much if built, right? It was like if you throw some money at us, we'll build you something. And I thought, well, maybe. Charlie, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think there's some loose analogies with the MCNs and the digital content aggregators, right? That sort of grab up a group of YouTube channels or creators and then distribute them across streaming TV, right? That's kind of like the loose parallel. And it actually connects really well with the point earlier about which platforms are going to differentiate, even as more and more are leaning into creator content and a TV experience. We're really excited about, and we're getting, I think the OEMs, the TV manufacturers, are coming out as like really strong contenders in the longer game. And the ones in particular that are looking, I think, really interesting for us are the ones that are looking at this future of creator-led TV, which is coming. Yeah, like TV is going to look completely different in 10 years' time than it does today. It's going to, creator-led shows are going to dominate programming. And so the OEMs that come to us that come with a strategy, or they want to talk about strategy, about like, what are the types of creators we want to work with? What are the categories that we should look at? What is the overall experience? And how can that inform the general audience viewing experience? Those are really interesting. I think that's a big area to watch, is like the OEMs and what they're going to do, especially the ones that are not just bringing over creator content as like a utility, but like looking at it from a cultural relevance standpoint and storytelling uniqueness standpoint.
Well, that also gets into, again, we can talk about syndication. I mean, that you have inherently global audiences that you can sort of maximize. I mean, I think that this, you talked about OEMs. I mean, for me, and I don't think they've really leveraged this yet, but Walmart and Vizio, I mean, we're not talking about that, but I think we kind of should. I mean, but that's a massive brand that, going back to like the 1950s, RCA and NBC, GE, et cetera. I mean, but you had that kind of integration. I mean, what do we think about that? If I buy a Vizio, am I going to see some amazingly sponsored Walmart stuff, and David Williams will have his people, and Parker will be there with AI stuff, and God knows what Jonathan's going to come up with. But I mean, David, what do you think about that? Because of course, part of this exercise is making brands extensible and kid-friendly as well, and you've kind of mastered that. So give us a little insight there.
Just coming into the Walmart, like I do think that on paper, the Walmart Vizio deal looked really exciting. The biggest, arguably sort of the biggest distributor of televisions is now in the television business, and by the way, they're also a big advertising business, and that's a window into, a door into advertising.
They're also one of the largest integrators of technology writ large. So.
I no doubt. And so I think on paper that all looked great, but I think in reality, company integrations are really hard. These are big, sprawling companies with multiple objectives. These are all just very, very difficult. And with all of the balkanization, this is the thing that kills me, is that FAST has pretended that they are not competitors to YouTube for all this time. It's really hard. You have to kind of squint to see the difference, to be honest with you. And in the FAST space, you've got all this balkanization. They all have their own product teams. They all have their own sales team. They're all going after the same channels. We're paying for those channels every freaking time they're going to a new service. Where at YouTube, they've just got kind of this monolith that works. Right. And so someone has to explain to me how FAST is going to win in the end.
Go ahead, John.
So I was going to say, and to that point, it came out a few weeks ago that YouTube is actually the second biggest investment in content, right? More than any other platform.
Yeah, they said $100 billion over the last 4 years.
Right. So bigger than any of the traditional, except second to Comcast.
So Peak TV has decreased its investment, and that was even before the strikes of 2023. And so now, rising out of it, we have YouTube, an even bigger behemoth.
And the thing about YouTube is the creators. It's the content, right? But it's actually everything around it as well. So you mentioned Studio 71, which is now the guys have gone underscore, and it's about understanding that these creators are actually brands in themselves, right? So it's TV, it's music, it's licensing, it's merchandising, it's e-commerce.
Talk about the data.
Podcast. Oh, and data as well. Absolutely right. So these guys are a different kind of beast, if you pardon the pun, beast to beast.
So you want to break up YouTube, right?
No,
I'm joking.
I want to unite the competitors to YouTube.
Well, I think so. It's interesting because David and I were talking about Snapchat this morning, and they made some announcements recently, and I find it interesting that sort of the comeback of some of these platforms, but it's driven by that generation alpha that David's so attached to. But I think that's where the tastemakers are. I had to throw in that word. I love tastemaker. But that's where the tastemakers are, the cool kids, whatever. But it's going to be so much more that drives us. I mean, Parker, we were talking about AI earlier. You know, whether human-centric storytelling in this next 5 to 10 years for the creator world, Tilly Norwood has turned this town upside down, or maybe we think she has. But and I want to find out who her agent is, because you know I do want her to do an appearance at a local retailer. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, but seriously, Parker, don't you think that we're ripe for AI creators?
I mean, yeah, there's been a trend of them from Lil Michaela before that. I mean, yeah, maybe not AI in the sense that it's like the voice is generated by AI, but certainly artificial, I guess.
YouTubers too.
Yeah, VTubers have been again, it's a category. It's not taking over all of creation, right? So I think
we described it as a genre.
Yeah, genre. Yeah, VTubers is a big genre, viable, but it's not like, I don't hear a lot of creators worried about, you know, Miku taking over, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think about like Gen AI content a lot because, you know, AFV again has a lot of very sort of base level comedy clips, and they would seem to be really easy to replace by AI. In fact, there was an AI video called America's Funniest AI Home Videos, and it was a great job. It's hilarious. But like, you know, this content has been around now for at least a couple of years, and we're not seeing it at this moment any slowdown in our viewership. If anything, like we're growing at a pretty steady CAGR, and so my feeling is like the human social context still matters. And yeah, there are closed loop systems. We talk about gaming being one of them, where you could spend hours, you know, by yourself with all AI characters. But I think like the Schadenfreude aspect of
when someone gets hit in the groin
like,
with a bowling ball, you want to know that's a real person.
Yes, exactly.
Because
he didn't cry the way I wanted him to.
Yeah. So until you know, for the moment, humans are still human, and I think we're gonna have that weird fascination with knowing that, that pain.
And by the way, that's the full quote of the whole panel, right? Thank you, thank you, Parker. Charlie, I mean, let's talk a little bit more deeply about what creator television is doing in the Latino space and sort of getting better representation for this creator economy and what that means to brands as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So creator television is being launched within a larger advertising technology company called Sabio. Sabio's mission, and it overlaps with our mission, which is to create a more inclusive media ecosystem. So we're mission driven to increase representation in the streaming space and create a programming that's more reflective of today's world, So we don't focus, or we don't look to work with only diverse creators, but we're inclusive and not exclusive. But we are in many ways, through this, I guess like a lean in to diverse creators, we are empowering and bringing on into the TV space the next generation of TV creators. So the folks that we're working with are picking up credits, writing credits, executive producing credits, editing credits. And some of them, as we've seen with like Daphne Springs and Trey Kennedy, have now sort of parlayed that experience into these bigger deals with Hulu. Yeah, and I mean, let's talk about the agency world. I mean, Jonathan with Underscore Talent, and certainly the upheaval of recent years here, you know, with CAA and the consolidation of the larger talent agencies. I mean, are they running? I mean, are they running to you to get help?
I don't know if I would use those words. I mean, I think what Underscore and TheSoul offer, as I mentioned, is the ability to give that kind of holistic approach to creators, and they really understand the space that they're in, and to build them. The most successful creators are the ones who make themselves into brands, who give themselves the ability to kind of build that audience, build that community, build that fandom. And then coming back to what we were saying earlier, that's what the platforms want, right? They want to have people who have already got that built-in audience. They don't have to do the work of building that. because it's already been done for them. So that their assumption, I think, is that they're going to bring those audiences with them to their platform, which may or may not be the case. We've seen some very high-profile creators who haven't made the same sort of transition from social media as they have to fast or streaming platforms.
Do they want to?
I think I would say most creators do.
Yeah.
They want to they want to be ubiquitous. They want to have that audience. They want to have the ability to build their brands further. I think it's a very fine art of understanding how you kind of transition, because it's not just a shift and lift. You can't just take what you're doing on one platform. In the same way, you wouldn't do content necessarily the same way on TikTok as you would on YouTube or as you would on Instagram, right? So it's making kind of a bespoke content proposition for those platforms. So I think that, it will be interesting to see what happens in the years ahead, which creators kind of rise. And I'm thinking that the ones who do best on more traditional and streaming platforms may not necessarily be the ones who are the most successful on digital first.
Right, and since you mentioned TikTok, I mean, I want to bring up, a big happening this summer, which was the launch of Microco. A lot of money, a lot of Hollywood talent. What do we think of that? I mean, Parker, what's your take on the vertical kind of drama, microdrama play, particularly from a creator angle?
Yeah, many different takes. One really interesting for Hollywood right now, and just the industry giving them work. And two, though, I think I'm always surprised when a new platform grows quickly, right? Like, because YouTube is dominant, and then TikTok popped up 5 years ago.
And by the way, for those who are keeping score, I believe this is the 20th anniversary of YouTube. I think today is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, think about that. Rather amazing. Yeah.
It's not a startup anymore.
Right.
So, what micro dramas or soaps have done is, like, they found an underserved market, which are women 25 to 55 who really liked book talk and romantasy, and they weren't they weren't being served really by any platform, and they capitalized on it. And those platforms are growing so quickly. I mean, Real Short, I did like 35 million 3 years ago, 200 and something million this last year. And now they're like over a billion.
It's fantastic, but again, it's you talk about distribution. I mean, you don't need to worry about that. Everyone's got a smartphone.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's same thing happened in Korea with webtoons, where they took like manga and realized like people are watching on their phones, so let's make it vertical, and that became a whole new category. And it's like, that makes sense for shorts. And right now, vertical video.
By the way, the engineer who came up with that, he got a promotion.
Yeah.
Very Korean.
Interesting, it's also truck drivers. That's the other big demo that's watching the dramas.
Great. Yeah, I didn't know that.
No, they went from porn to microdramas.
I mean, that's the question right now is, and good to hear that that's a growing space, but like right now, we're all wondering, like, are there other audiences for microdramas or for premium vertical? Because when you broaden this a little bit, like, vertical videos right now don't monetize very well. I mean, I guess they monetize the same rate per hour, but that means you need a lot more.
I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either.
Content,
Yeah, that was the step.
They say that, but I think he was using, that was, I think, Neil from the CEO of YouTube, but I think he was using data from India to sort of normalize it.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy.
Just a theory.
Just a theory.
I think
There's
it's
only
hard.
180 million people he could call on. Yeah.
Yeah, because to be clear, I mean, shorts generally in the US are anywhere from 7 cents to 12 cents per 1,000 views.
Yeah.
We've seen more, but like that's kind of the sweet spot. Regular videos in the US, typically we're looking at $5 RPM, like if you're in a decent category.
Right.
So that's per 1,000 views, right? So now just you take a lot more views of that short, which are short. There's 60 seconds or less generally to reach that. But anyway, that's not the point here. They don't monetize very well, and the platforms have been trying to catch up to new ad units and really try to monetize them well. Meanwhile, like Real Short charges, I think 60% of their consumers are paying like $20 a week, so that's $80 a month for vertical content. And
That's the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. That really points to where this business is going, you know, and not just in this town, obviously. I mean, you know, we've talked around the global side of this, which is very interesting because that would be the subject for another panel. We are not going to take questions because we're going to have a reception upstairs and you can buttonhole us up there. Wait, Laura Martin is the only person who gets to ask a question. Laura Martin from Needham gets to ask a question.
I have a problem I'm hoping you can help me solve. And that is that Wall Street doesn't apply an exit multiple to the creator economy because we're worried the guy gets hit by a truck and therefore you can't replicate his success. So if you commit your life to the creator economy and you're trying to build a business, you walk away from half the value that I give to Disney or to Fox, or because they get a terminal multiple, which is typically about half the value of the cash flow streams. So my question is there some solution to that in the creator economy where these companies can get the full value and compete with the Disneys in the end? Or is it always going to be if you hit, even if you don't hit them with a truck, if they just decide they want to retire because they're worth $1 billion, all bets are off. There's no terminal multiple there. Can you help me with this, please?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we've seen examples of creators turning their brands into something beyond themselves. Somebody actually, you know, there's a great kind of analog here where there's a corporate pyramid, and on the creator economy, you flip it upside down because the whole thing is on the shoulders of the creator, right? Like, this is the problem. I would argue that at Pocket Watch, we've actually done sort of a version of this with our service called Ryan and Friends and Ryan and Friends Plus, where Ryan, as this kid creator, when he was between the ages of, call it 4 and 10, was, you know, and arguably like the biggest creator in the world, and his appeal, and he broke through, right? We got him into stores, Walmarts and Targets and $1 billion of retail. He became an avatar for the kid creator space. And that allows us to essentially, he's now 13, like he's not doing toy stuff anymore, right? But but there's still new audiences who are becoming fans of his content from when he was at that young age. And what we've done is we've built a service where, yeah, there's Ryan content, you know, you might call Prime Ryan in there, but then there's content from 46 other creators who are very aligned with Ryan, so that fans of Ryan actually also love Diana, and they love Toys and Colors, and they love like Nastia and Blippi and many of these others. So we've been able to kind of create a brand that actually goes beyond the single creator, even though creator's name is in it.
Yeah. Just to add, I really think there's two main strategies, right? There's I call it SNL version, which is what you're talking about. You start building a cast. You focus on the cast more than
Smosh stuff.
Exactly. And then the other direction is more these creators use their moment in the spotlight to launch a business, use their promotional ability. So Michelle Phan, who's the oldest example, launched Ipsy at a time when the subscription blind bag, like I think they crushed Birchbox, which is like the next competitor.
She was the biggest exception,
like immediately with Ipsy. And so I remember Donut, that was a big concern of ours, is that James Pumphrey was like the only talent. And that was started as a brand, not even as a single like influencer base. This is an automotive channel. And then we brought in new characters, new people, and like they became just as interesting. And James actually took like 6 months off, and you couldn't even tell in the viewership when he did that, right?
Furious just did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, they had to after. Yeah, so I think those are the two main strategies.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Laura, for that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Once again, give it up for Charlie Ibarra from Creator Television, David Williams from Pocket Watch, Mark Jones from Towerhouse, Jonathan Shrank from TheSoul Publishing. I'm Chris Pfaff from Chris Pfaff Technique LLC. We'll be upstairs, and you can ask more questions. Thank you.